130 plus in GS paper 1 Mains 2026, that is paper 2, Saturday 22nd August 9 a.m. to 12 a.m. So 20 questions, 3 hours, 250 marks, and somewhere in that paper there will be a question where you first honest reaction is, what exactly am I supposed to write here? Everything I am going to say in the next hour are so exist to make sure that one question does not decide your paper. 130 plus in GS paper 1 Mains 2026. One more thing before we start, and it matters. GS paper 1 is on the 22nd of August, forenoon 9 to 12. The essay paper is the day before in the same slot, and the GS paper 2 is the same afternoon 2:30 to 5:30. 2:30 2:30 to 5:30. So we are not planning a strategy for next year. We are planning the next few days, and because we are that close, one instruction governs everything that follows. What is that instruction? If it is already how you write, today sharpens it. If it contradicts what you have practiced, keep yours. Do not swap technique 4 days before the paper. A method you have not practiced costs you attention in the hall that you need for thinking. Take from today the 3 things that fit what you already do. Then leave the rest. This session is not asking you to rebuild, it is taking and asking you to tighten. The first one is the target. The target. What is the target? First, understand the target. So let us begin with the number 130 plus. What is that 130 plus? 130 out of 250. And let me be straight with you about that number because most people who use it are not. So Nandini KR AR1 2016 GS paper 1 131. Anudeep Durishetty AR1 2017 GS paper 1 123. Ista Kishore AR1 2022 GS1 121. Shakti Dubey AR1 2024 GS1 112. Aditya Srivastava AR1 2023 GS paper 1 104. In 12 years, in 12 years, in 12 years, one All India ranker, one has crossed 130 in this paper by 1 mark. Most top rankers score between 100 and 125 here. So 130 is not a target you are failing to hit. 130 is a direction, not a scoreboard. 130 is a direction, not a scoreboard. What we are actually building today is the paper that reliably lands in the low hundreds and above. And that paper historically is a topper's GS1. Do not measure yourself against a number in the hall. There is no scoreboard in there. What you can control is this a strong GS1 does not require 20 masterpieces. The real enemy is variance. It requires a consistently strong paper. A few answers may be excellent. Many will be very good and are simply solid. And there will be a few where your knowledge is genuinely incomplete. That is normal. So that is the paper working as designed. The objective is not the same percentage on every question. The objective is to keep collecting marks across the paper while preventing 2 or 3 difficult questions from collapsing the whole booklet. So imagine two candidates. Candidate A opens brilliantly, excellent answer, another excellent answer, then a difficult question. too much time on it. Another excellent answer, then one complete, then one incomplete, then behind the clock, one question almost abandoned. The final three rushed. Candidate B has no drama at all. Good, very good, solid. Average but relevant, very good. And that continues until all 20 are finished with reasonable structure and relevance. Who has built the safer high scoring paper? Very often, candidate B. So, because GS performance is not only about producing a few spectacular answers, it is about controlling variance across the entire booklet. So, raising the ceiling but protect the floor. How do I keep my difficult answers relevant, structured, and mark worthy? The five conditions. What are the five conditions? You want outstanding answers, of course you do, but you cannot allow your weakest answers to collapse. So the question is not only how do I make my answers, how do I make my best answers better? It is a strong GS paper one needs five things, that is relevance, structure, value addition, completion, and consistency. Comes to the relevance. Relevance first. You may know 20 points about a topic. The question may need 5. If you dump all 20, you are not demonstrating mastery. You are demonstrating an inability to select. So before asking what do I know, ask what you are actually being asked to explain, establish, or evaluate. So relevance of the question. Then second one is structure. What is the structure? The examiner should not have to search for your argument. Your argument should be visible. But remember one thing, structure is not equal to decoration. So structure is not boxes everywhere. It is purpose is to make your thinking visible and to stop you drifting from the question. So that is the structure, not decorative one. Then moving to third one, that is value addition. This is where candidates with the same basic knowledge separate. One writes urbanization has created several social problems in India. Another writes rapid urbanization is increasingly accompanied by peri-urban expansion, informalization of labor, spatial segregation, and pressure on urban commons. Both understand urbanization. One is using discipline, disciplinary language, but value addition must serve the argument. Like rapid urbanization is increasingly accompanied by peri-urban expansion, informalization of labor, spatial segregation, and pressure on urban commons. So, but value addition must serve the argument. A diagram that communicates nothing is not value addition. A scholar's name dropped to show you no, it is not value addition. And an uncertain statistic can actively damage your credibility. Completion, the fourth one what? Completion. And this is the most underestimated variable in the paper. Suppose you spend 4 extra minutes polishing an answer that is already good. Maybe it improves slightly, but because of those 4 minutes, question 20 gets 3 lines. Was that trade worth it? Was that trade worth it? Completion is greater than perfection. So here is why in one sentence, the first 4 minutes of any answer earn most of the marks that answer will earn. So minute 9 earns very little, but minute 1 of the question 20 earns a lot. That is the entire logic of completion, and it is also its limit. If an answer is genuinely half built, finishing the argument is worth more than starting a new one. So completion beats perfection, it does not beat coherence. So you are not submitting your best 5 answers here. You are not submitting your best 5 answers. You are submitting one complete answer booklet. Consistency, that is the fifth one. Your first answer cannot look like a model answer and your 20th like rough work. After 2.5 hours, your handwriting will speed up. Your diagrams will simplify. Your introductions will shorten. That is fine. That is human. But your thinking architecture must survive to question 20. So before any framework, make one shift. Do not walk in thinking, I need 130 marks. You cannot control the evaluation from inside the hall. Rather than think instead, that is, I have 20 opportunities to collect marks, one question at a time. So first of all, read, then decode, then structure, then write, then exit, and then reset with another one. So that loop protects you from difficult questions, but it is also protects you from your favorite questions. Because you see a topic you know extremely well, you think, let me show the examiner everything. And suddenly a 7-minute answer has taken 11. That is not knowledge, that is a time management error wearing a disguise. So, A strong, B workable, C difficult. You do not need 20 A type questions. Most of your paper will be B type, and your score will depend on enormously on what you do with the C type. Which is why we will build an entire salvage protocol later in the session. So you do not need 20 A type. Most of the paper is B type, workable. Then we are moving to the part 2, that is the 7 move answer system. What is the 7 move answer system? The 7 move GS1 answer system. The biggest mistake in the examination hall is this: you read a question, you recognize the topic, and you start writing. Stop doing that. Recognizing is the topic is not equal to understanding the question. Recognize the topic is different, understanding the question is different. You may know everything about urbanization. UPSC may be asking specifically about urbanization and social mobility. You may know everything about the revolt of 1857. UPSC may be asking whether it represented a break from earlier resistance. So same syllabus, different demand. The demand of the question you have to understand. So before your pen moves, your mind has work to do. So 7 moves. What are the 7 moves? The first move is decode the directive, like explain, comment, discuss, etc. Then second one, identify the demands. Identify the demands of the question. Then you have to generate dimensions for answer. Then build the introduction. Then answer with evidence you have to write. Then add visual and conceptual value for value addition. Then close the answer and exit to move the another question. So the first move is decode the directive. So do not imagine 7 mechanical boxes. With practice, moves 1, 2, 3 in particular began to happen almost simultaneously. Eventually, you look at a question and within 30 to 40 seconds, you see the architecture of your answer. So what is UPSC asking you to do? Like directive means I earlier told you, directive like discuss, examine, analyze, evaluate, comment, critically examine. These are not decoration in the question. They set the shape of the answer. So discuss asks you to present dimensions and engage with them. Examine asks you to inspect the components of a claim. Analyze asks you to break something into parts and show relationships. Evaluate asks for a judgment supported by criteria. Comment asks for a considered position, and one word causes more damage than any other. That is critical. Critical is not critical is not equal to negative. Critical is equal to reasoned scrutiny. Reasoned scrutiny. And the second move is identify the demands. So critically examine does not mean attack. It means weigh, show the strength, show the limitation, and arrive somewhere. The directive tells you what to do. The demand tells you what about. And most questions carry more than one. So take a question on urbanization and the changing structure of the Indian family. A candidate reads it and thinks urbanization and everything they know about urbanization starts arriving on the page. But the demand is not urbanization. The demand is what? How does one thing act upon another? So here the demand test. What is the subject? What is being claimed about it? How many things am I being asked to do? So this is our all regarding with the identify the demands, then moving to generate dimensions. So answer those three, and half the papers is generate dimensions. What is mean by generate dimensions? Answer those three, and the half the papers danger is already gone. And if you take nothing else from this move, count the demands before you write. A two demand question answered and one demand losses marks, no amount of content can recover. So this is the move that saves you when your mind goes blank. You are not trying to remember, you are trying to generate. And generation follows triggers like social, economic, political, cultural, demographic, gender, technology, spatial. Then eight buckets, you will rarely need more than four. And here is the rule that governs all of them. Relevance versus artificial breadth. Do not force eight dimensions because you memorized eight buckets. Three relevant dimensions beat seven decorative ones. And the test which three is not which you know best. It is which three the questions verb actually requires. If the directive is evaluate, a dimension that carries no judgment is decoration. However, well you know it, different subjects also need different triggers like history, context, then leads to causes, then leads to nature, then leads to participation, then leads to consequences, and then significance, and then with limitation. As far as history is concerned, then comes to geography, where, then where, why there, then how, then pattern, then impact, and then final conclude with linkages. Comes to society. Society means how. First start with structure, then change, then mechanism, then continuity, and for whom. So this is the way of the writing an answer. Move for build the introduction. The introduction has one job: establish the terrain and signal the answer's direction. Introduction is entry, not destination. That's all. Do not open with a quotation you half remember. Do not open with a static you are not sure of. Do not spend 50 words arriving at the topic. So introduction is equal to entry, not destination. That is, you have to realize it. And then move 5, that is answer with evidence. 25 to 30 words is enough. Define, locate, or frame the tension, then move. This is where most answers quietly become generic. A candidate writes, women face many problems in Indian society. True, and worth almost nothing. Then compare to another one, women's labor force participation tracks education in a U shape rather than a straight line. and is further constrained by the unpaid care burden, occupational segregation, and the social costs attached to mobility. Same knowledge base, completely different mark. So use a chain like this: claim, then mechanism, then evidence. Then moving to sixth move, that is add visual or conceptual value. The claim is what you assert. The mechanism is how it works. The part almost everybody skips. The evidence is the example, the case, the concept, or the term that proves it. Most candidates give claim and evidence and leave out with the mechanism. The mechanism is where the marks are, because anyone can assert that something changed, showing the process through which it changed its analysis. Value addition is not equal to decoration. A map in geography, a flow diagram for a process, a precise term in society, a qualification in history. But apply one filter always, that is, never use a term you cannot explain. You use a term with you are comfortable to explain. Then move number 7, close and exit. How long should this thinking take? A term you cannot unpack in one class is a liability, not an asset. A conclusion does three things: it answers the question directly, it synthesizes rather than repeats, and it stops. Do not introduce a new argument in the conclusion. Do not write, thus we can say that in conclusion it can be concluded. And then exit. Exit is a skill. Exit is the most underrated skill in this examination. The answer is not finished when it is perfect. It is finished when it is time is over. So the 30 to 40 second rule. What is 30 to 40 second rule? 30 to 40 seconds between reading the question and beginning to write. That feels enormous in an examination hall. It is not. 40 seconds across 20 questions is 3 minutes. And be very clear where those 13 minutes live. The decode is inside the question's own budget, not on top of it. When I say a 10 marker is 7 minutes, I mean 40 seconds of thinking and about 6 minutes of writing. Budget it that way, or your plan is 13 minutes short before you sit down and it costs you almost nothing. Because you are going to read the question anyway, what it buys is that you read it once properly instead of 3 times badly. So don't start first. Don't start fast. Start clear, then write fast. So now put all 7 together. Let us run one question end to end in a real time. That is, urbanization has transformed the structure of the Indian family. Critically examine. So first one is directive. Move one is what? Directive. Then critically examine. So I am not simply agreeing. I am weighing a claim. The claim is transformed. That word is doing a lot of work and I should test in it. Then move to demands. What has actually changed in family structure under urbanization, and it is transformed. The right word. Or is something persisting? Then two demands. I must answer both. Then move three dimensions. What are the dimensions? Residence authority, gender relations, economic function, care and obligation, technology. Then six triggers, and I will use about five. Then move four introduction, roughly 25 words, and it must signal my position. Then urbanization has recognized the residential and economic form of the Indian family, though kinship obligation and marriage practice show considerable community continuity. Then that sentence has already told the examiner where this answer is going. Then move five body with evidence. Then residential nuclearization. housing cost, employment, mobility, small urban dwelling units, then changing intergenerational authority, then leads to economic independence of younger earners, shifts decision making, then gender relations, under gender relations, women's paid work alters but does not remove the domestic care burden. Then comes to modified extended family, that is separate residence continuing financial and care obligation. Then comes to continuity in marriage, endogamy and family arranged marriage remain widely persistent. So these are five things. Then move six, that is value addition. What is that value addition? What is that value addition? Precise terms, modified extended family, care burden, endogamy. Each one I could explain if asked. Move number seven, close and exit. Urbanization therefore reorganizes the Indian family across space, work, and technology rather than dissolving it. The household may become residentially nuclear while remaining embedded in wider kinship networks. And then I stop. So that is your 15 marker. Total time on it about 10 minutes and 35 seconds of thinking is inside those 10 minutes. And every fact in that answer was in service of an argument. Service and argument. Then moving to the part three, that is history and art and culture. So here is the biggest history mistake in GS paper one. The question asks what changed. The candidate writes what happened. Narration is not analysis. Look at a question on the Swadeshi movement. The weak answer tells the story. 1905 partition of Bengal, Karjan, boycott, protests, all correct, all narration. But the strong answer says something. The Swadeshi movement marked a transition in the character of Indian nationalism. The history thinking framework. Now, every fact you write has a job. It is providing, it is proving that sentence. That is the difference, not more facts. A destination for the facts, context, causes, nature, character, change, continuity, consequences, significance, and limitations. So, four rules make this work in the hall. Context should locate and argue, not a narrate decade. Context is not equal to long background. Context is equal to locate, place, argue. So rule number two, that is move from event to process. Two sentences, what where we are and what is at stake. An event is a fact. A process is history. Boycott of foreign cloth is an event. The politicization of consumption is a process. Picketing of liquor shops is an event. The extension of political action into everyday social life is a process. So event leads to process. Rule number three, claim evidence, then significance. Every time you write an event, ask what process it belongs to. That single habit changes the register of a history answer. In chapter number two, the chain was claim, mechanism, evidence. In history, swap mechanism for significance. Then it leads to claim to evidence, evidence to significance. So rule number four, that is causation is not a shopping list. So claim, that is Swadeshi broadened the social base of nationalism. Evidence what? Students, women, petty traders and shopkeepers and sections of the urban lower middle class participated in ways they had not before. The organized business largely stayed aloof. Then comes to significance. The movement demonstrated that anti-colonial politics could be mobilized outside the constitutional petition, anticipating the mass movements that followed. What is the claim here? Claim, evidence, and then so what? What is the so what in the question? Most candidates never answer. Then it takes to, let's say, take 1857. The weak answers list causes political, economic, military, religious, cartridges. A list is not causation. then it leads to structure, then mobilization, then trigger. And limitation is not an afterthought. The structure, what is the structure here? Long term disposition, annexations, agrarian pressure, cultural anxiety. Then comes to mobilization, pre-existing networks, local leaderships, Sipai regimental solidarity, and the opportunity created by the thin dispersal of European troops. Then comes to trigger, the greased cartridge controversy. Now you have layers instead of a list. So that is analysis. So significance without limitation is equal to celebration. Limitation without significance is equal to dismissal. Both are both equal to historical evaluation. So then art and culture don't write a catalog. Swadeshi broadened participation and remained largely urban upper caste, and Bhadralok led with limited peasant and Muslim participation. So you have to say both. That is the historian's sentence. The art and culture mistake is different. It is listing. So name of temples, name of styles, names of paintings. No argument. Use this instead, like farm, then lead to feature, then patronage, then patronage, then material, regional adaptation, significance, farm, feature, patronage, material, regional adaptation, and significance. And when a question says evolution, evolution requires sequence. Comes to temple number 17, Sanchi, early 15th century, simple flat roofed structural shrine. Dashavatara temple, Diogar, early 6th century, early developmental of the Shikara. Then three parallel regional idioms, not three stages. Dravida belongs to Pallavas. It's 700. Kanchipuram, Mamallapuram matures under the Cholas. Brihadishwara 1010. Raja 1. Then Nagara it leads to Nagara belongs to Khajuraho 950 to 1050 under the Chendelas. Then comes to Vesara belongs to Dakkan from the mid 7th century. That is Badami Chalukyas, Rashtrakutas, Kalyani Chalukyas, and then Hoysalas. And now be very careful with linearity, because this is where marks are lost. Nagara did not become Dravida. Dravida did not become Vasara. Structural Dravida was fully formed under the Pallavas by around 700. Vesara runs in the Deccan from the mid 7th century. These are three regional traditions developing alongside each other, not three stages in a queue. So, sequence within a tradition, not a race between traditions. So, art is historical evidence. Art is historical evidence. What about dates and historians? What about dates and historians? Architecture tells you about patronage, resources, technology, and belief. Treat it that way, and art and culture stops being a memory test. Use dates you are certain of. Use decades and phases when you are not. Accuracy is greater than false precision. By the late 19th century, is a perfectly good historical sentence. An invented date is not. Same with historians. Name one only if you can say what they argued. A name without an argument is a decoration. A name with a wrong argument is a penalty. Then moving to part 4, that is geography. Geography make the examiner see your answer. A geography answer should look geographical. The biggest geography mistake is writing a general essay about geographical topic. No places, no spatial reasoning, no visual, just prose. Geography is the study of spatial differentiation. So the question that runs through every geography answer is why there? Why there? The geography framework, not what, not how, why there, where, why there, how, pattern, impact, linkages. So what is the live example? The Western Ghats here. Take a question on relief and the distribution of monsoon rainfall. The weak answer says the Western Ghats cause. The weak answer says what? The weak answer says the Western Ghats cause heavy rainfall on the west coast. The strong answer shows the mechanism. Moist southwest monsoon air arrives over the Arabian Sea. It meets the steep western face of the Ghats and is forced to rise. Rising air expands and cools adiabatically. It reaches saturation, condensation occurs, heavy orographic rainfall falls on the windward side. The air crosses the air crosses the crest and descends. Descending air warms, relative humidity falls, rainfall declines sharply, and that produces the rain shadow interior of the Deccan. So Arabian Sea, then Western Ghats, then rising moist air to windward, then cooling plus condensation, then heavy rainfall, then crust, descending air, then leeward, warming humidity falls, Deccan interior rain shadow region. So windward is belongs to orographic rainfall, leeward is belongs to rain shadow area. So that diagram took 20 seconds and it replaced a paragraph. So information is greater than artwork. When should you draw? Nobody is marking your drawing. They are marking whether it communicates or not. Draw a map when the answer is about distribution, location, or regional contrast. Draw a diagram when the answer is about a process. Draw nothing when the question is conceptual and a visual would only fill space. Map plus explanation, not that equal to not map instead of explanation. Map plus explanation means what? Not map instead of explanation. So process before impact. What is the rule number 2? That is process before impact. A unlabeled map earns nothing. Nothing. A map with 4 labels that prove your point earns marks. And name real places: Konkan, Malabar, Kasi Hills, Marathwada, Coromandel. Then named places are the cheapest credibility available in this paper. Most candidates jump straight to the consequences. Cloud bursts in the Himalayas are destructive. Then landslides, flash floods, loss of life. All true, but all impact. All true, all impact, but no geography. The process comes first. Process before impact. The synoptic setup, the monsoon trough lying against the foothills, sometimes interacting with the western disturbances, then moisture laden air, atmospheric instability and deep convection, then orographic facing against steep relief, local and mesoscale conditions, concentrating precipitation over a small area in a short time, then the terrain does the rest, steep slopes, narrow valleys, rapid runoff. So loose material constricted channel, the human exposure, settlements on floodplains, roads cut into unstable slopes, construction in channel beds. So these are belongs to landslides, disaster risk, hazard, exposure, vulnerability. Disaster risk equal to F into hazard, exposure, vulnerability reduced by capacity, a quick geography check. So note what that is not. It is not a multiplication formula. Do not reproduce it as literal mathematics. It is a way of thinking, not an equation. So did I establish where? Did I explain why there? Did I show the process, not only the outcome? Did I did the visual earn its space? Did I name real places? Did I connect physical process to human consequences? So you have to check all these six questions. So and one reminder, the one syllabus, and one reminder that the syllabus makes and candidates forget. GS1 geography is not only India, world physical geography and the global distribution of resources are in the syllabus. You should be able to sketch roughly ocean basins, major current systems, broad climatic belts, and the resource concentrations. You actually know, like rough labeled fast, not an atlas. Then moving to society, part 5. Society means escape the generic answer. Society has a very specific difficulty. What is that? Everybody already knows the issues. Urbanization has positive and negative effects. Globalization is changing society. Broadly true, entirely generic. So the society challenge is, how do you take something everybody knows and write it with a sociological depth? Women face problems: unpaid care economy, motherhood penalty, occupational segregation, patriarchal bargaining. So caste is changing, like occupational mobility, endogamy, political mobilization, caste class intersection, institutional adaptation. And the central analytical tension in Indian society is this change without assuming disappearance, the society framework. The society framework. Almost every society question is secretly asking you to hold two things at once. Something is changing and something is persisting. Right only change and you are naive. Right only continuity, you are stagnant. Right both and show the mechanism connecting them. That is a society answer. So from structure, then change, then mechanism, then continuity, then for whom. Structure, change, mechanism, continuity, for whom. And for whom is the move that separates sociology and moral commentary. Change is never uniform. Change is never uniform. It is different for an urban professional woman and a landless agricultural laborer, different for a dominant caste and Dalit household, different for a metropolitan family and one in a small town. The moment you write, but this is uneven, and here is how. You have stopped generalizing. You have stopped generalizing. The question is, caste has not disappeared, it has changed its form. Examine. What is the question? The question is what? Caste has not disappeared, it has changed its form. Examine. The first move is directive. Directive is examine here. Inspect the claim. Do not simply agree. Then move to what? Demands. Demands. Two demands here. Caste is not disappeared and it has changed its form. So two demands: what has weakened and what persists altered form. Then move three dimensions: occupation, marriage, politics, urban space, institutions. Weakened what? Weakened ritual hierarchy in public life. Then the hereditary tie between caste and occupation through audit studies shows caste still shapes urban private sector hiring. Then untouchability is legal and public legitimacy, but roughly 1 in 4 households still report practicing it. IHDS 2011-2012 says it. Persistence in new form. What is the persistence in new form? Then endogamy. Then around 5% of Indian marriages are intercaste, and marriages remains the strongest set of caste reproduction. Then leads to caste as a political mobilization and identity. Then caste networks in credit, housing, and access to opportunity. Then caste class intersection in urban labor markets. So notice here what happened. When did not say caste is bad? When did not say caste is over? We said what? This weekend that persists, and here is the site where reproduction happens. That is structural analysis. So what are the scholars? Who are the scholars? Carefully. M.N. Srinivas, Sanskritization, Dominant caste. AM Shah household is not the same as family. Conduity patriarchal bargaining. And unpack the ones people most often misuse. Patriarchal bargaining is non-negotiation between women and men. It is a strategy women use to maximize security inside a patriarchal structure. Strategies that often end up reinforcing it. Two or three secure concepts used correctly or with more than eight names used vaguely. And if you are not certain a concept belongs to a particular scholar, use the concept and drop the name. The concept ends mark the misattribution losses one more, because it comes up constantly. That is what urbanization is dissolving the Indian family. Do you agree? The lazy answer is like this. Yes, nuclear families are rising. The strong answer is more careful than that. AM Shah's point is that the household form is more varied than the nuclearization story suggests. Most people pass through both nuclear and giant phases in one household's development cycle. So residence changes, kinship obligation runs on regardless of who is under which roof. Members live apart. Members live apart. Obligations do not end. Money moves, care moves, marriage decisions remain collective. That is modified extended family, separate residence, continuing kinship function. And a word of caution on that term, that is, it comes from Western family sociology. That is Litwa use it, do not attach the Indian name to it. And now technology extended further, kinship is maintained across distance daily. Then reorganization, not dissolution. That reframing is the difference between describing and analyzing, and that distinction is what this paper is built to reward. So then we are moving to part number 6, that is 10 markers versus 15 markers question. So don't just write, think deeper. Question number 1 to 10, 10 marks, 150 words. Question number 11 to 20, 15 marks, 250 words. So those word limits are printed on your paper. UPSC states them explicitly. And most candidates treat the 15 marker as 10 marker with more sentences, but actually it is not. It is not. It is a different cognitive task. A 10 marker rewards precision and compression. Compression. Then 15 marker 260 words comes to 10 marker, 20 to 25 words introduction, 95 to 100 110 words body, then 15 to 20 words conclusion. In these three dimensions, four at most, four at most. At 110 words of body, four headings is 27 words each, and 27 words is about where a point stop being a point. Seven headings gives you 15. Seven shallow headings do not create depth, they create fragments. And a 10 marker is not a small messy, it is a tight, complete, well selected answer. A 15 markers rewards relationships, 250 words, 25 to 30 words for introduction, 90 to 95 for demand 1, 90 to 95 for demand number 2, 20 to 30 synthesis, 2 through 2 3 dimensions per demand, asks what against what, 2 or 3 developed dimensions per demand, 5 or 6 in the whole answer, not 5 or 6 per side. And notice what changed. It is not that you and it is not that you add more points. Depth per point is greater than number of bullets. Depth 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 is important here. Depth per point is greater than number of bullets. A developed 15 marker point is roughly 35 words. A developed 15 marker point is roughly 35 words. The claim is, mechanism is, evidence is, consequence. These are all things, not a heading followed by one line. And do that arithmetic once now, so you never have to do in that hall. 6 points at 35 words is 210 plus intro and synthesis. You are past 250. So you will run out printed space before you run out of things to say. So 10 marker is 3 dimensions. 15 markers is 2 to 3 per demand. The same topic both ways. How? Let me show you the difference on one topic so it stops being abstract. The 10 marker. Examine the factors responsible for the spatial variation of rainfall in India. One demand factors. Selection matters more than range. Introduction. Rainfall in India is governed primarily by monsoon circulation, modified by relief and distance from moisture sources. Then four factors, each with a mechanism and a named place. That is relief, Western Ghats, orographic, uplift on the windward side slope, then rain shadow, the leeward Deccan interior, distance from the moisture source, declining rainfall westward across the Gangetic plain, then barrier effect. The Himalayas trap the monsoon and deflect the Bay of Bengal branch westwards of the Ganga plain. Forcing is to shed moisture within the subcontinent. One quick India map, that is one line of conclusion, 5.5 minutes, and the 90 seconds I did not spend is now available to the question number 19. So 15 marker, a spatial variation of Indian rainfall is increasingly a question of variability rather than average discuss. Now look at what changed. This is not asking for more factors. It is asking you to hold two ideas against each other. The demand number one is the established spatial pattern and why it exists. Demand number two, why variability, timing, intensity, concentration is becoming the most consequential problem. And then finally synthesis. The average has not stopped mattering, but planning built on averages in increasingly mismatched to the distribution people actually experience. Same knowledge, same syllabus, entirely different cognitive task. So a 10 marker question asks what, a 10 marker question asks what, a 15 marker question asks what against what. So the other difference is synthesis. A 10 marker can end by answering the question. A 15 marker should end by resolving the tension the question created between the both, what against what. If the question sets up change against continuity, the conclusion says how both are true at once. If I sets up opportunity against vulnerability, the conclusion says whom each applies. That is what 15 marks is buying. Then comes to question-cum-answer booklet. The constraint almost nobody teaches. This matters and almost nobody teaches it. GS paper 1 is written in a question-cum-answer booklet. The questions are already printed. Each question has fixed space below it. There is no supplementary booklet. Nobody in the hall can ask for extra sheets. Anything written outside the space provided is not evaluated. So you have to do you have to imbibe space discipline, time discipline are the same discipline. Space discipline and the same time. Space and time disciplines are the same discipline. So the word limit is not advised. It is the shape of the container. And one printed instruction people forget. Any page or portion left blank must be clearly struck off. One more thing, because that fixed space cuts both ways. If you realize mid answer that you have gone the wrong way, one clean diagonal line through what you wrote and continue underneath. One line. Do not scribble, do not shade it out. Scribbling eats the only resource you cannot get blocked, which is space. The shorten your plan to fit with what is left. A 4 point answer becomes a 3 point answer. It is still a real answer. The examiner reads past a stuck line without a thought. So moving to part 7, that is 180-minute execution system. Everything so far has been about building one answer, Now we build the paper. 10 questions into 10 marks, 10 questions into 15 marks, total 250 marks, 180 minutes. You should not spend equal time on both. 10 marker question about 6 to 7 minutes, then comes to 15 marker about 9 to 10 minutes you have to spend. And before you use these numbers, test yourself once. Tonight, time how long 150 words takes in your real exam handwriting. 5 to 6 minutes. These ceilings are yours, use them. Then 8 minutes, do not force 20. Your honest plan is 17 or 18 answers written properly, and 18 good answers beat 20 scrappy ones. Know which candidate you are before Saturday. So not a minute. Know which candidate you are before Saturday, not at minute 150. And listen carefully, these are ceilings, not entitlements. Do not think every 10 marker deserves 7 full minutes. Straightforward answers should finish earlier. That is how you create room. So 60 to 70 minutes for the 10 markers, 90 to 100 minutes for the 1050, 60 to 70 minutes for the 10 markers. 10 questions, each carry 10 markers. That is 60 to 70 minutes you have to allocate them. Then 90 to 100 minutes for the 10-15 markers. 10 questions which carry 15 marks each one. So 90 to 100 minutes. The rest is buffer. So what are the checkpoints here? If you consume the full 7 by 10 and 10 by 10, you have usually 170 minutes. That leaves 10, and your opening scan has already taken two or three of those minutes. So those minutes are not free time. They are contingency, transition and correction. So after question number 5, 33 minute, late at 38. After question number 10, 63 minute, late at 73. After question number 15, 108 minute, late at 123. So two numbers on each one. The first is where you want to be. The second is the line past which you start compressing. So between them you are fine. Between them you are fine. Keep going. Do not speed up because you are 3 minutes of the first number. So that is how good answers get thrown away. Those figures assume the printed order, 10 markers and then 15 markers. If your practiced sequence differs, shift them. But have checkpoints, because without them do not discover you are behind until minute 150, and discovering it at minute 150 is late, but it is not lost. So papers get recovered from minute 150 every single year, and I will show you exactly how in a moment. What you cannot recover from is not knowing. When the paper begins, do not start writing immediately. 2 to 3 minutes, read all 20 questions, mark them mentally as A, B, C. You are not planning answers, you are building a map of the terrain, and you are looking for one thing in particular, the questions you can finish fast and well. Those are your time donors. They fund the difficult ones. The honest answer here is it matters less than people think, and it matters in one specific way. Attempting a strong question early builds rhythm. That is real. But there is a cost you must understand. GS1 is a question come answer booklet. Each question has its own reserved space. So if you skip and return, the discipline is not writing the number. The numbers are already printed. The discipline is making sure you are writing inside the correct block or not. So, but on the rough work page at the back, register what is pending. Never inside the answer space. And before you hand in, strike through your rough work and strike off every blank page or blank portion. That instruction is printed on your booklet. My recommendation is Mostly follow the printed order. Skip a question only when you genuinely cannot begin, and return to it deliberately. One exception, and only one. If question one is a question you cannot begin, do not open your paper on it. Go to the first question you are scan marked A, write that, and come straight back. Opening well is worth something real. But that is one deviation decided in the first 3 minutes, not a sequence. And the mechanic for the wrong block risk is trivial. Before your pen touches the page, read the printed question number back to yourself once. The habit costs 1 second and prevents the worst thing that can happen to you in this booklet. Do not build a complicated personal sequence under examination pressure. Complexity is where papers are lost. Then time up to close, then exit. Time up, then close, then exit. Not abandoned. One line of conclusion, then leave. Not time up, abandon. Close, give it one line conclusion, then leave. No problem. An answer that ends properly at 7 minutes is more reliably rewarded than one that trails of 11. But exit has a condition and you must know it. Never exit a two demand answer having done only one demand, because you have to satisfy two demand, which question has asking two demands. That is why. So halfway through the answers time, minute 3 of a 10 marker, minute 5 of a 15, ask one question: have I reached my second demand? Have I reached my second demand after half of the particular minute, particular marker? If 10 marker question, half of the time is 3. If 15 marker question, minute 5 of a 15 marker. So because the time is 10 minutes for more or less 9 to 10 minutes for 15 marker question, more or less 6 to 7 minutes for 10 marker question. 15 10. Have I reached my second demand? If not, stop developing the first one right there, midpoint if necessary. Move to demand 2 with whatever time is left. A thin answer to both demands beats a beautiful answer to half the question. So every time, that is exit discipline. Running out of time inside demand 1 is just a structural failure with good timekeeping. And the exit is not just about that answer. It is about the next one, because the real cost of an overrun is never paid by the question you overran. It is paid by question 20. 10 seconds between answers. Pen down, one slow breath out. Then the next question: 10 seconds 20 times is 3 minutes. It is the cheapest insurance in the paper, because the most dangerous thing you carry across the paper is not fatigue. It is emotional residue from the previous answer. So don't score the paper while writing the paper. You do not know the marking, you cannot know it. The only useful question is, what does the next answer require? And do not compare your speed with the person besides you. Someone may be two questions ahead, someone may be writing very fast, someone may stop early. None of that tells you anything about their answer quality. So your clock, your sequence, and your paper. And one thing I hope you never need, if you freeze, if you read a question three times and nothing arrives, and you feel your chest go tight, here is what you do: pen down, both feet flat on the floor, breathe out slowly, longer than you breathe in, four times. That is about 20 seconds. Then move to the next question. Do not sit and fight it. Write something you can write and come back. This happens to people who go on to clear. It's your body, not your preparation. And it passes in under a minute if you let it the last 30 minutes. Suppose you reach minute 150 with 5 questions left. Do not spend 12 minutes rescuing one. So because the other four are then squeezed into 4.5 minutes each. Instead of that, compress deliberately. The 5 minute compressed answer, one line introduction, three headed points, each with a mechanism, one line conclusion, the execution loop. So that is not a bad answer. That is a controlled answer. A compressed, relevant, structured answer scores. And if you reach the last 2 minutes with a question untouched, write 4 lines. There is no negative marking in this paper. Four relevant lines score something. A blank is that only guaranteed zero in the booklet. So what is the thing finally? Read first of all, then decode, then structure, and then write, and then exit, and then reset. This is not seven move system. That system builds one answer. This loop runs the paper. And we are moving to the part 8, that is salvage protocol. What is salvage protocol? The GS1 salvage protocol. Now the chapter that decides the scores. What do you write when you do not know enough? What do you write when you do not know enough? Because you will meet that question. Everybody does. Toppers do. The difference is what happens next. The first one is understand that I don't know has three versions. The type 1 is I know the topic, not this framing. Type 2, I know part of it. Tap, type 3, I have very little. Type 1 and 2 are usually your B type questions. Type 3 is your C type question. And there is a protocol like S, simplify the question. A, anchor in certain knowledge. L, logically generate dimensions. V, visualize or use a safe example. A, avoid fabrication. G, give a qualified conclusion. E, exit on time. Salvage. Simplify, comes to simplify. Translate the question into plain language. An intimidating question is often an ordinary question wearing formal clothes. Examine the implications of demographic transition for intergenerational care arrangements. So, plain version is as families get smaller and people live longer, who looks after the old? You can answer that. You could always answer that. Then start from what you are certain of, not from what the question implies you should know. One secure fact, one secure concept, one secure example. Build outward from certainty, never inward from panic. Go back to eight triggers: social, economic, political, cultural, demographic, gender, technical, spatial. You are not retrieving, you are reasoning. Reasoning is a legitimate examination skill and is a part of what is being tested. So but it is not substitute of for knowing things. It is what do you with what you know when the framing is unfamiliar. So apply one honest test before you run this. One certain fact, one certain concept, one certain example. Apply before you generate. One certain fact, one certain concept, and one certain example. If you have those three, generate and protocol will carry you. If you have none of them, do not generate. Structure with nothing underneath it is the most transparent answer in the pile. So an examiner spots the empty framework faster than a wrong fact. Write 4 points of most honest, most specific thing you can say. Close it and give the save time to a question where you actually have something. One diagram or one safe example can carry as answer whose content is thin. A process flow, a simple map, a well chosen illustration you are sure about. Never invent, never invent. A static, a report, a scholar, a case. This is the line you do not cross. 67% of Himalayan landslides are caused by road construction. You do not know that. Nobody in that hall knows that. Invented precision is one of the things experienced examiners are most alert to. And the risk is not just that figure, it is that the rest of your answer stops being taken at face value. So that is why, right instead of that, unplanned road construction on unstable slopes is widely identified as a significant contributing factor. You lost nothing while you are writing this, you gained credibility rather than wrong figure. So, what certainty? Then calibrate language, then exit on time. Calibrate language increasing when certainty decreasing. Exit on time. When you are less sure, your language should become more carefully calibrated, not more confident. May amplify is associated with tends to available evidence suggests. These are these are not weak words, they are accurate words, but keep them rationed. Two or three in an answer is calibration. Six reads as a candidate who knows nothing dressed up. So this is also you have to be aware, very careful. Hedge the claims you are unsure of. State plainly that once you are sure of. Overclimbing from a thin base is the fastest way to lose an examiner. This is the whole point of the protocol. A salvaged answer must not consume the time of answer you could have written well. A salvaged answer should cost less time, not more. One live salvage. Let us actually do one. A question you have not prepared for. Examine how colonial land revenue arrangements reshaped rural social structure in 19th century in India. Suppose your revenue system notes are thin. Watch the protocol work. First, simplify. When the British changed who paid tax on land, who gained power in the village, and who lost it. That a question you can think about. Anchor. What am I certain of? That revenue was assessed in cash and fell due to a fixed date, whether or not the harvest came in, and the different regions had different arrangements like permanent settlement with Jamindar, intermediaries in Bengal, Bihar and Odisha Rayatwari directly with individual cultivators in Madras and Bombay, and Mahalwari with the village body, the Mahal across the northwestern provinces, the Ganga Valley and the Punjab. That is not enough. That is your foundation. Then comes to generate, apply the triggers. What are the triggers? Economic, social, legal, spatial, etc. Comes to economic part, cash demand forces commercialization and borrowing. Then social, the money lender rises as a village power, and the legal one is in the permanently settled areas, revenue intermediaries acquire see, a saleable property right they did not previously hold. Then comes to spatial, outcomes differ sharply by region. So I must not generalize across all of India. Then comes to visualize a three-step chain, cash demand, then it leads to indebtedness that leads to land transfer to non-cultivating creditors. Then you have to avoid fabrication. I will not invent a percentage of land transferred. I will say a significant transfer of land to non-cultivable classes is widely documented through historians differ on its scale, since creators often preferred a permanently indebted cultivator to the land itself. Then comes to qualify the extent and the pace of this varied considerably by region and by the arrangement in force. Then finally exit one line of conclusion and I am gone. So I did not remember more. I reasoned better. So the forgotten term trick, one more tool, and it is the most useful small thing in this session. If you forget a technical term, describe the phenomenon instead. You cannot recall modified extended family, right? Family members may reside separately while retaining strong financial, emotional, and care-based kinship ties. You cannot recall distressed migration. You can write like this: movement driven less by opportunity than by the collapse of local livelihoods. The examiner is marking your understanding, not your vocabulary recall. So a good description is usually earns most of what the term would have earned. It is real recovery. So in this way you have to write an answer. The part 9 is 10 marks, sorry, 10 mistakes. 10 mistakes that cost the most marks. What are the 10 mistakes? First 10 of them, for each what goes wrong and what to do instead. The first one is answering the topic instead of the question. The most expensive mistake in the paper, decode before you write every time. The second one is ignoring the second demand. Count the demands in that particular question. Two demand questions answered, one demand cannot be rescued by content, because in the question they are asking two demands. Then moving to third one, narrating instead of analyzing. Especially in history, every event should belong to a process. Then fourth one is geography without space. No places, no map. No why there. Name real regions. Draw when it earns its space. Then society as moral commentary. This is unfortunate, is not a social, it not so is not sociology. Structure then leads to change, then structure change, then mechanism, then continuity, then last for whom. The last question is the cure. The sixth one is using frameworks mechanically. Social, economic, political, cultural, applied to everything. Fitting nothing. Social, economic, political, cultural, applied to everything. Fitting nothing. Frameworks generate dimensions, then they do not replace thinking. The seventh one is invented precision. Fake statistics, half remembered reports, misattributed scholars. One invented figure contaminates the whole answer. The eighth one is decoration, mistaken for structure. Half the page underlined, boxes everywhere, headings with one line under them. Structure should reveal an argument, not hide the absence of one. Then ninth one is overwriting questions you love. You see a favorite topic and the answer, you budgeted 7 minutes for takes 11. So that is not knowledge, that is a time management error. The 10th one is not exiting. The single most common cause of a unfinished paper, time up, close, exit. One mistake in one answer is small, the same mistake in 15 answers is your score. Which is also the good news. You do not have to fix 15 things, fix one habit and it pays you 15 times. So the final part, the part 10 is the final days and the close. So the final protocol, what is that final protocol? Let us be precise about the calendar, because it changes the advice. Friday 21st August SA 9 to 12. Then Saturday 22nd August GS paper 1 9 to 1 9 to 12, 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. Then Saturday 22nd August GS to 2:30 p.m. to 5:30 p.m. So essay day is not a study day. You will already have written for 3 hours that morning, which means your last genuinely free days are the one before it. Use them like this and do not in priority order, because if you only have 2 days, you should spend them where the marks are. Recent GS1 papers, roughly society 90 marks, geography 85 marks, history 50 marks, and art and culture 25 marks. So look at the priority. Priority number 1, society plus geography. These two carry roughly 70% of recent papers. Society, concepts and relationships like caste, family, gender, urbanization, then globalization, communalism, regionalism. Comes to geography, processes not descriptions, like monsoon, orographic rainfall, cyclones, rivers, soils, hazards. Driver India outline until they take 90 seconds, and one ruffled sketch ocean basins, currents, climatic builds, and then priority to, that is history and art and culture. Themes, not chapters: nationalism, mass mobilization, colonial economy, constitutional reforms, transfer of power, post independence consolidation, and one world history theme like industrial revolution, world wars, or decolonization, art and culture, farm, feature patronage, material, regional adaptation, significance. Six secure examples, not 60. And if you are watching this with 1 day left, that is fine, and is what a lot of you are doing. So take priority one, leave the rest. You are not behind a plan, you are choosing where the marks are. So one rhythm check: if you have the energy, not on the last day, put it on your first free day. 6 questions are 45 minutes, not to test knowledge, to test hand speed and exit disciplines. And specifically to answer one question, how long does a 150 words actually take you? Then put it away, do not score it, do not read it back hunting for mistakes. You are measuring your hand, not your preparation. And if you are too tired or too close to the paper, skip it. That is a legitimate decision, not a failure of discipline. Comes to the essay day, a short evening block only, 30 to 40 minutes, PYQ architecture drill, read a question, spend 30 to 40 seconds, say the demand, the dimensions, and the closing directions allowed. Do not write full answers. Then stop, then sleep. The boring part, the boring part that costs the most, that is tonight, not Saturday morning. E-admit card, printed, photo ID with it, black ballpoint pens, more than one. No phone, no smartwatch, no electric item. Pens you have actually written a full paper with, not new ones. Know your center. If you have not seen it, look at the route tonight and add 30 minutes to whatever the map says. Reach early, entry closes before the paper starts, and it does not reopen. Every year people lose a paper to a road, not to be a question. And about sleep, try for a normal night, but if you lie there and it does not come, that is extremely common before mains. And it is not the disaster it feels like at 2 in the morning. People write very good papers on 4 hours. Do not add I did not sleep to what you are already carrying into the hall. Carrying into the hall. Do not open new material on a Saturday morning. Whatever you learn between 6 and 9 is worth almost nothing, and what it costs you in calm is worth a lot. Look at your own one page frameworks, nothing else. Remember what follows: GS1, GS paper 2 is the same afternoon, 2:30 to 5:30. So plan the gap deliberately. A light familiar meal, no postmortem of paper 1, 10 minutes of GS2 triggers, and rest for the writing hand. Your body is part of the examination system. So block A is the 7 moves answer system, like directive, demands, dimensions, introduction, evidence, value, close and exit. Then block B is what? The memory sheet. History. History comes to what? History, claim, evidence, process. This is significance qualification. Then geography. Geography. Where, to, why there. Where, why there, how, pattern, impact, visual. Then society. 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 Structure, change, mechanism, continuity for whom. Then execution. 10 marker, 6 to 7 minute, 15 marker, 9 to 10 minute. Then minimum completed, time up, close, exit. Then comes to block D, salvage. simplify, anchor, generate, visualize, avoid, fabrication, quality, qualify, and exit. One thing first, for the person who has just watched an hour of this and is thinking, I don't do half of that. You do not need half of it. Nobody executes all of this. The people who scored 120 in this paper did not do all of this either. They did 4 or 5 things reliably. Decode before you write, answer every demand, exit on time. Decode before you writing, answer every demand, exit on time. You do not need half of this. Pick three. If those three all you take from today, the session did its job. Now let me finish where we started. 122nd, on the 22nd of August, you will open a paper with 20 questions, in it. Some you will know well, most of you will know enough, and two or three will surprise you. This is not a bad paper. That is not a bad paper. That is a that is every paper. The questions set your ceiling. The questions you don't set your floor. You do not need 20 perfect answers. You need 20 controlled attempts. Read, decode, structure, write, exit, reset. 20 times. That is the whole method. Everything else in this session was detailed. And one last thing that is true and that nobody says enough. This is one paper out of 9. Every single person on those topper lists has a paper they walked out of feeling sick about. So GS1 is where a lot of them had it. The candidate, who topped 2023 scored 104 here and still finished first in the country. So if you come out of on Saturday afternoon feeling is went badly, you will not know whether it did. You genuinely will not eat something and go and write GS2, go and write a complete booklet, then 130 plus 20 controlled attempts, and all the best and thank you for Saturday 2020 to August 22nd August for 9 a.m. This is GS paper 1. Thank you.